I noticed myself completely lose the present, where we're like in a state of urgency, in a state of rushing, in a state of like everything is urgent. Like we don't have to be like that. We don't have to be like rushing around and in this state of urgency. You cannot make decisions from a reactive state. That's the thing with your marketing. You don't want to become predictable. You want to have different things. You got to get past the hustle. I say you got to earn the right not to hustle. Once you earn that right, then you get to build the team, then you get to build the structure and the systems and remove yourself from the business. Embodied CEOs don't chase trends. They pave the way. They lead from within, moved by purpose, unshaken by noise. When you are the source, you do not need permission. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you guys are having an amazing start to your week. Happy February. It's been a good start to the year. I shared in the last podcast, though I struggled at the beginning of the year with my routine, but I'm doing great now. I'm feeling good. On this podcast, I want to share a quick lesson that I literally just had this morning that I think will help you guys. And then I have 2 marketing specific strategies that I want to share with you today. So we're going to kind of do a mix of both. And before I dive into that, I want to make sure I share and that you know the Embodied CEO Mastermind. So that is the mastermind that I host with a max of 10 entrepreneurs. You get me one-on-one for 6 months. You get one-on-one calls with me. We do a weekly call where you get one-on-one time with me. There's a Telegram group. You get access to me every single day in it. It is the deepest that I go with entrepreneurs to essentially partner with you and go, all right, where do you want your business to be 6 months from now? Where do you want your life to be? Where do you want you to be? Let's make the strategy happen. And you get my brain on your marketing, your messaging, your business structure. I've helped girls with right now in the mastermind, like their team, their operations, their hiring, their offer, their business model, how they're going to scale it. You name it, we go there. So it is open for enrollment. We start this month. So if you go to embodiedmarketing.com/CEO, you can see more info about it. Fill out an application, and I personally review everyone because I am working deeply with all the entrepreneurs in this container. So we only open this every 6 months, and it is a catapult to your success because you have, you can tune out all the noise and just get strategic guidance on what you need to focus on. All right, with that said, here's my quick lesson. And then I have 2 marketing strategies. I wanted to share this lesson because it didn't fit as a full episode, but I think it's a cool, important lesson. So I shared in the last podcast episode how I did a reset this last weekend, and I've come into this week much more grounded, much more present. I've got my meditation practice back. And with that, I can feel the difference in my body of knowing when I'm grounded and when I'm present, when I'm regulated, and then when I kind of leave that. And this morning, I was taking my youngest to school. And I got a message because my team has started working, and I got a message from my team. I got a message from my client, like something needed to be handled. It wasn't an emergency, but it was like they were asking me a question. My team was telling me the answer. I needed to reply to this client. And I noticed myself completely lose the present. It was like this urgency of like, I need to reply right now because it's a client and I care, right? And I needed to tell him the answer so he could review the page, and my team sent me the thing, and I was, for whatever reason, the go-between this morning because he texted me. This is a VIP client. And I watched myself go into a state of urgency when there was actually nothing urgent. And I had a 25-minute drive with my son, and I watched myself like battle that I needed to reply at the stoplight. I needed to reply right away. And I literally put my phone far enough away from me in the car. And I was like, nobody's going to die. Nothing bad is going to happen if you reply after you drop him off, walk him in school, and sit in your car for a second and reply. And I could feel like my brain argue with that. Like I was like, this is what we're doing. And then as I'm driving, I'm crafting the freaking message in my head. I'm like crafting what I'm going to say. And my son's talking and I'm not fully present. And I'm like, no, we're back to this conversation with your son. Like I watched that urgency. And I think that we don't realize that we do this, especially high performers, where we're like in a state of urgency, in a state of rushing, in a state of like everything is urgent, everything is an emergency, when it's not. I saw this video also, this goes with it, on social media last week. where it was a parenting profile that I follow, but she was saying like she was doing things in a hurry and then like reminding herself, I'm not being chased by a lion. So it was kind of a joke, but it was like, she's cleaning the counters and she's like doing it all in a hurry, or she's like getting ready, putting her shoes on fast. And then it's like, just slow down. Like, we don't have to be like that. We don't have to be like rushing around and in this state of urgency. And so it was interesting this morning. I watched myself argue with it. Like, my brain was like, no, we need to respond. This is urgent. And it wasn't urgent. It was not urgent at all. Like, the client would be absolutely fine if I replied in 2 hours, if it took me that long to reply. And I think this is just such an important thing because we are so accessible a lot of times between text and email and Slack, Voxer. It's why I don't have a lot of those on my phone, because if I'm accessible, then I make it an emergency and I make it like I cannot not reply to you. And so I have to be like, I'm not even looking at it on my phone. I don't have email. I don't have Slack on my phone. And I think when we do that, we now become a leader in a reactive state. And you cannot be creative, you cannot be grounded, you cannot make decisions from a reactive state. And so literally as I'm driving, I'm battling with myself this morning and I'm going, the future CEO of an 8-figure company is not creating an emergency out of something that's not an emergency. You will respond to this in an intentional way when it is time. And right now you're going to be present with your son in the car driving to school. And I did. I waited. I got there and I dropped him off. I replied to the message. Client was fine. Everything is fine. But I think this is such an important lesson because what you don't realize, and I say this so much on the podcast, capacity is everything. You have to have mental and energetic capacity to hold your next level. And when you are in a state of urgency and chaos and overwhelm all the time, you don't have the capacity. And you have to change that, and you have to catch yourself in those moments when you feel like that. So even try today, like the moments that you feel that, like you feel it in your body, like, oh, I got to reply to this right now. Like, this can't wait. And it's like, well, can it? Like, I think it can. Most of the time it can. And because our phones make it so we are so accessible, we now feel like we have to reply so fast. And we have to like immediately get on something like it is an emergency. And also look at it as you go about your day. I catch myself doing this, like getting ready to leave the house or, getting ready in the morning or getting my kids ready. It's like, I'm like rushing. Why? I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not rushing everywhere. We don't have to rush. And I naturally do that because I move really fast. And I've been, around friends when I'll go on a trip and they're like, you're so fast. Like you get ready fast and you're like always like so fast. And I'm like, that's just my mode. And it is a gift and it is a strength, but also let's chill. We don't have to do that to our system. All right, there's my lesson for this morning. I thought it was a good one. Let's get into the 2 marketing strategies that I want to share today. So these are just 2 things that we've been testing with clients that could be a good strategy for you. Could not be, take it or leave it. One of them is we have a client who runs a free challenge. And this is a strategy I'm going to implement in my free challenge. We added on a VIP ticket upgrade. And I've seen others do this, and I have another client who we actually just got to be behind the scenes of this launch that was a $7 million launch. And we spent $1 million in ad spend, so big, massive launch. And they also had a challenge with a VIP upgrade. So the concept behind this is you have a free challenge, a free experience, and then those leads can upgrade and pay, $27, $30, not very much, for a VIP upgrade where they basically get more support in the challenge. And so both of them, one of them, they actually got a physical journal that was shipped to them for the challenge. It was a big challenge, 30-day challenge. And then the other was extra calls, extra support, extra calls throughout the challenge. So what this does is, 1, it helps cover ad spend. In both cases, we covered about 50% of the ad spend. So 50% of $1 million with the VIP upgrade, we covered with just the VIP upgrade. And then the other same thing, 50% of the ad spend we covered with the VIP upgrades. So you're not profiting off of it, but you're paying for the leads that you're bringing into the challenge. And then also, the people who bought the challenge are now higher quality leads, because they're going to be engaging more. Even if they've spent only a little bit amount of money, they're higher quality leads. I don't have the data yet on the $7 million launch, but I do have it on the other one that 60% of the buyers of the core offer that the challenge went to also bought the VIP upgrade. So this is just a thought and an idea, especially for like a multi-day experience, is can you make a VIP upgrade? Now here's the key, and this is so important. The upgrade has to add to the experience. It has to just help them get the same result that the experience is promising. It cannot take away from the core offer. And that's an easy mistake that could happen without being really intentional with this, because you could give them such a good VIP upgrade that now they don't need your core offer, and now you're doing more harm than good. You have to make sure that there is still a gap that your core offer can fill. So in both of these cases, we just added support to the challenge experience. So they got extra Q&A calls. They got to keep the recordings from all of the challenge when everybody else didn't. We just added that and padded that, and it was well worth it, right? Like $37, $47. The one that was $47 got the actual physical workbook in the mail. I mean, like, such a good deal, shipped to them. And so it was adding to that experience while still creating a gap that the main offer gets to fill. And that's the key, because if you solve their main core problem with the VIP upgrade, you're now going to do harm on your core offer pitch. So something to consider in multi-day events is there an opportunity for like a VIP ticket to it? I'm going to be implementing this in my challenge. I think it's a great strategy. I think anything you can do to help cover ad spend today, because people take longer to convert, and get people into a container where they paid a little bit of money and now they're quality leads and you can nurture them more. In the case of the challenge where 60% of those buyers bought the main program, I mean, they had 4 extra hours of support that week. They're being nurtured more. And also they're probably taking it more serious to show up to those calls because they paid for them. And they know that, they want to get their value from that. And so that's a strategy to consider. I probably wouldn't do it with a one-time webinar. I think you could, but you're probably not going to have a VIP ticket to a webinar. You have to be careful of confusing the message, but I think this is great for a multi-day event, workshop series or a challenge, anything that's multi-days and there's a ticket to the experience. You could have a VIP ticket, just like you would an event, in person. So that's one strategy to just consider if you host a challenge. I do love challenges. They're definitely for a specific type of an audience. They're for people who will take part in a challenge and participate. If you target higher level business owners and people who lack time, a challenge might not be the right option for you. And then the second strategy that we've been playing with, and it's something we've been doing with some clients, is every once in a while having a webinar, having a training with no replay. And the key is I communicate that after people sign up, because number one, I don't want it to be a barrier of saying sign up and there's no replay. So if you can't make it, don't sign up. So I don't want it to be a barrier. So what happens is we communicate it on the thank you page and the emails that go to the registrants that there will be no replay. And what this does is it makes it like, hey, I'm sharing really important information and I want you to show up because you're going to get the most out of it. So there's not going to be a replay. And we communicate that, and we hit that over the head multiple times in between when someone signs up and the webinar actually happens. And I've seen it boost show up rate anywhere from 5 to 10%, maybe even a little above that, which show up rate to a training, a webinar, a workshop has been something that has been struggling the last several years, getting people to actually show up and actually participate. So that is a strategy. I wouldn't do it every single time because then it gets predictable. And that's the thing with your marketing. You don't want to become predictable. You want to have different things. Now you can add to this. So people will not be able to make it, right? For legit reasons, time zone, they're working, whatever. Instead of sending out a replay, you can send out a recap. So you can send out, hey, I'm not sending out a replay. You had to be there live for the training, but I did record this quick recap video, and it's like a mini of your webinar, which still has your pitch in it. I recorded this recap video. Here it is. You can send that out in replacement of your webinar. Option B is you could do an encore webinar. So you could say, there was no replay, but it was so good, and I'm going to do it again tonight, or I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And when we do that with our clients, we don't announce the encore until after the webinar. So they have the webinar. It has a no replay. We push that to everyone who signed up. No replay, no replay. Show up, show up, show up. We have the webinar. Right after the webinar, we try to screenshot like the social proof in the chat of like, this was amazing, this is so valuable, all those things. And then we go back and we say, it was so good. There was no replay, but I'm doing it again at this time and this date. And we usually do it the same day at night or the next day at a different time so we can capture those different time zones. Or you can do the option of sending out a recap video. The last thing that's a cool strategy that I did on one of my last webinars was we had no replay, but I went to my Instagram stories and I said, look, we're not sending out a replay of this to our email list, to anyone, but I'll give it just to you guys on my Instagram stories. And so if you comment replay, I'll send it to you. And I got hundreds of comments of people who wanted that replay. And then I was able to, DM with those people and have sales conversations. And so that's another small creative way, is like take it just to a small group of people and say, hey, like I'm not sending this out, but just for you guys, I will offer this to you. And I had a lot of response from that. So play with that. Like if you're struggling with your show up rate, which a lot of people are, show up rates used to be able to get 30% of your registrants show up, and now it's 20% or less, like sometimes 15%. And I see that across the board. I have in my mastermind, like 8-figure business owners saying the same thing. It's just kind of a struggle with where we're at today in the industry. So doing no replay will increase that. Like it will. If you communicate it right, it will, because people want the information. There's the fear of missing out, and you've got to get on to get it. So get on. But again, don't do it every single time. Make it a special thing for maybe a new training. I love to tie it with the messaging of like, I'm sharing insider intel, which is true. And so therefore I'm not sending a replay out because I don't want the replay to exist. And sometimes I love it when there's not going to be a replay, because I'm like on the training and like, I can be unhinged on here. Like this is not even going to go out in a replay. So I can say whatever I want. And I do. I actually sometimes do, like I'll be a little more unhinged of like calling things out or saying things that I wouldn't maybe necessarily want sent out, but I can say it to the people that are on live. So those are 2 marketing strategies that you can consider if you do webinars, if you do challenges, if you do multi-day series. You can try the VIP ticket. Anything right now that can offset ad spend is a great strategy, because leads take longer to convert. So if we can help pay for our leads, now they're on our list, we can nurture them, we can bring them into our core offer, and we've helped pay for them. So it's a great strategy to implement. Hopefully you guys got something out of this episode and for sure learned from my lesson this morning. Catch yourself today in those moments of like urgency. Become that grounded leader. I promise you, like every 8-figure CEO I've met shows up that way. Like they have a presence. They're not chaotic. Because I do not think you can be a 8+ figure CEO. I think you can get to 7 figures doing that. You can, because I've done it. I don't think you can get to 8 figures and beyond in a chaotic state, in a reactive state at all. I think that is like a lesson of 7 to 8 figures, because I know I'm going on a tangent now. I think that when you are building to like 6 figures and 6 to 7, I think you almost have to have a little bit of that chaotic urgency, especially if you're doing it all yourself, unless you can hire a team. Like you haven't earned the right yet to be like, I get to just kind of be grounded and wait to respond to this. Like that's just the business is the hustle in the beginning into that first 6 figures. And then I think you start to learn this, but I still think there's many people who get to 7 figures in a state of chaos, but they burn out. Then they quit their whole business. And they're like too much was being asked of me and I hated this, or they never want to grow a team again. And it's not even about the business or the team or the size or anything. Like there's so many people who have this story of like, I don't want to grow a team, or I don't want to have a big business because it was too stressful for me when it got to a certain level. And like, that wasn't the level or the fact you had a team. It was how you showed up in that environment. And so if you're not willing to change, then sure, don't have that. And you don't have to. I mean, having a team is definitely not easy. There's massive benefit to it. I mean, you couldn't have huge impact without support. You can only do so much. My point being, I think it's how people show up in that and instead they blame external things. They blame, oh, I grew my business to this level and I burnt out because it was at this level. Or I grew my business to this level and I had a team of 5 people and I hated it and so I don't want a team. No, it's how you showed up in those moments. And again, you can get to 7 figures in the chaos, in the urgency, in the dysregulated system, but you will burn out. And so I think the journey, which is where I'm at, of 7 to 8 figures is like, how do you hold the big success and the pressure and the responsibility and not from that state? Because it's no longer like that would be nice. It's you're not growing until you do that. Like you won't have the capacity until you master that. And that is for sure the journey of 7 to 8 figures. And when I meet 8-figure entrepreneurs, they are grounded. I've met a handful, and I think most show up that way and also have plenty of capacity, time, and energy. They're not running around like crazy and like can't keep up. Sure, they're busy. Their life is full, but they're intentional. And so I think that's the journey. That's where I'm at. And if you are, at the early stages or before 6 figures, like the reality is you have to have some sort of hustle, but you can do it better than most. If you have the awareness, like I didn't have the awareness back then at all. And so I think you can also do it in a more grounded way, but you have to get uncomfortable at that level unless you can pay for a whole team. You got to get past the hustle. I say you got to earn the right not to hustle. Once you earn that right, then you get to build the team. Then you get to build the structure and the systems and remove yourself from the business. All right, everybody. I will talk to you next time.